Good morning, everybody. We're reading from Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, and we are on Madhya-līlā, chapter 19, and we're on page 294, and this is text 94. Okay, so Om Jnana Timurandasya Gnanjana Shalakya Chakshu Unmanitam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Go Bhaktavinda. And the last verse we read yesterday, or the last two verses we read yesterday, were Raghupati Upahya first offered his respects to Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, and the Lord gave him his blessings, saying, always stay in Krishna consciousness. And that was followed by Raghupati Upahya was very pleased to hear the Lord's blessings. The Lord then asked him to describe Krishna. So that is where we were yesterday. So now we're starting today on page 294. And as I said, Madhya-līlā, chapter 19, and this is text 95. Okay, I'll just read the translation. When Raghupati Upahya was requested to describe Krishna, he began to recite some verses he had personally composed about Krishna's pastimes. Hearing those verses, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was overwhelmed with ecstatic love. Raghupati Upahya recited, those who are afraid of material existence worship Vedic literature. Some worship Smriti, the corollaries to Vedic literature, and others worship the Mahabharata. As far as I am concerned, I worship Maharaj Nanda, the father of Krishna, in whose courtyard the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, is playing. Purport. This verse, recited by Raghupati Upahya, was later included in Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī's Madhya-līlā. Text 97. When Raghupati Upahya was requested by the Lord to recite more, he immediately offered his respects to the Lord and granted his request. To whom can I speak who will believe me when I say that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is hunting the gopis in the bushes by the banks of the river Jamuna? In this way, the Lord demonstrates his pastimes. Purport. This verse was also later included in Madhya-līlā. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested Raghupati Upahya to continue speaking about the pastimes of Sri Krishna. Thus the Lord was absorbed in ecstatic love, and his mind and body slackened. Purport. Our minds and bodies are always engaged in material activities. When they are activated on the spiritual platform, they slacken on the material platform. When Raghupati Upahya saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic symptoms, he decided that the Lord was not a human being, but Krishna himself. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Raghupati Upahya, according to your decision, who is the foremost being? Raghupati Upahya replied, Lord Shyamasundar is the supreme form. Of all Krishna's abodes, which do you think is the best? Raghupati Upahya said, Madhupuri, or Mathura Dham, is certainly the best. Purport. Lord Krishna has many forms as stated in Brahma Samhita, Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Ananta Rupam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Raghupati Upahya which form was the best of Lord Krishna's millions of forms, and he immediately replied that the supreme form was the Shyamasundar form. In that form, Krishna stands curved in 3 places and holds his flute. The Shyamasundara form is described in Brahma Samhita 5.38. Premanjana Jurita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaha Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shamasundaram Yachinta Guna Sarupam Govindam Adipusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee, whose eyes are anointed with the Pope of love. He is seen in his eternal form of Shyamasundara, situated within the heart of the devotee.
Jai, beautiful.
Those who are filled with ecstatic love for Krishna always see the form of Shyamasundara within their hearts. Raghupati Upadhyaya confirms that the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has many incarnations, Narayana, Singha, Varaha, and others, but Krishna is distinguished as the foremost, as the supermost. According to Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Krishna tu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. Krishna means Shyamasundara, who plays his flute in Vrindavan. Of all forms, this form is the best of all. Krishna lives sometimes in Mathura and sometimes in Dwarka, but Mathura is considered the better place. This is also confirmed by Rūpa Gosvāmī in his Upadeshamrita. Vaikuntaj Janito Vara Madhupuri. Madhupuri or Mathura is far superior to the Vaikuntha Lokas in the spiritual world. Next verse. Of Sri Chaitanya, Mahāprabhu asked, of the 3 ages of Krishna known as childhood, boyhood, and fresh youth, which do you consider best? Raghupati Upadhyaya replied, fresh youth is the best. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, among all the mellows, which do you consider the best? Raghupati Upadhyaya replied, the mellow of conjugal love is supermost. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then asked, you have certainly given first-class conclusions. After saying this, he began to recite the full verse with a faltering voice. The form of Shyamasundara is the supreme form. The city of Mathura is the supreme abode. Lord Krishna's fresh youth should always be meditated upon, and the mellow of conjugal love is the supreme mellow. Purport: this verse is found in Madhya-līlā 82. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then embraced Raghupati Upadhyaya in ecstatic love. Raghupati Upadhyaya was overwhelmed by love, and he began to dance. Vallabha Bhattacharya was struck with wonder to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Raghupati Upadhyaya dance. He even brought forward his 2 sons and made them fall down at the Lord's lotus feet. Purport: the 2 sons of Vallabhacharya were Gopinath and Vidyaleshvara. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Prayag in the year 1434 or 1335 Shakabda era, Vidyaleshvara was not yet born. In this regard, one should see Madhya-līlā 1847. Upon hearing that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had arrived, all the villagers went to see him. Simply by seeing him, they all became devotees of Krishna. All the Brahmins of this village were anxious to extend invitations to the Lord, but Vallabha Bhattacharya forbade them to do so. Vallabha Bhatta then decided not to keep Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Madhya-līlā because the Lord had jumped into the river Jamuna in ecstatic love. Therefore, he decided to bring him to Prayag. Vallabha Bhatta said, if anyone likes, he can go to Prayag and extend invitations to the Lord. In this way, he took the Lord with him and departed for Prayag. Vallabha avoided the river Yamuna. Putting the Lord on a boat in the river Ganges, he went with him to Prayag. Due to the great crowds in Prayag, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to a place called Dashashvamedha Ghat. It was there that the Lord instructed Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī and empowered him in the philosophy of devotional service. Parasya purport. Parasya Sakta Vivid Hariva Shriyate. The Supreme Lord has multi-potencies, which the Lord bestows on his fortunate devotees. The Lord has a special potency by which he spreads the Krishna conscious movement. This is also explained in Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Madhya-līlā 7:11. Krishna Shakti Vina Nahe Tara Pravartana. One cannot spread the holy name of Krishna without being specifically empowered by Lord Krishna. A devotee who receives this power from the Lord must be considered very fortunate. The Krishna conscious movement is spreading to enlighten people about their real position, their original position, the original relationship with Krishna. One requires Krishna's special power in order to be able to do this. People forget their relationship with Krishna and work under the spell of Maya life and afterlife, transmitting from one body to another. This is the process of material existence. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna personally descends to teach people that their position in the material world is a mistaken one. The Lord again comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to induce people to take to Krishna consciousness. The Lord also empowers a special devotee to teach people their constitutional position. Back to the text. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī the ultimate limit of the truth about Lord Krishna, the truth about devotional service, and the truth about transcendental mellows, consummating in conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. Finally, he told Rūpa Gosvāmī about the ultimate conclusion of Śrīmad Bhagavatam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught Rūpa Gosvāmī all the conclusions he had heard from Ramananda Roy and duly empowered him so that he could understand them. By entering the heart of Rūpa Gosvāmī, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered him to ascertain properly the conclusions of all truths. He made him an experienced devotee whose decisions correctly agreed with the verdicts of the disciplic succession. Thus, Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī was personally empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. The principles of devotional service are only apparently under the jurisdiction of material activity. To be rightly guided, one must be personally guided by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This was the case with Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī, Sanatana Gosvāmī, and other acharyas. In his book, Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Kavirāja, the son of Shivananda Sain, has elaborately described the meeting between Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the course of time, the transcendental news of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan was almost lost. To enunciate explicitly those transcendental pastimes, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Prayag empowered Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī and Sanatana Gosvāmī with the nectar of his mercy to carry out this work in Vrindavan. Purport. This verse and the following two verses are from Act 9, 13, 38, 29, 30 of Caitanya-caritāmṛta by Srila Kavirāja. From the very beginning, Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī was deeply attracted by the transcendental qualities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, he was permanently relieved from family life. Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī and his younger brother, Vallabha, were blessed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although the Lord was transcendentally situated in his transcendental eternal form, at Prayag he told Rūpa Gosvāmī about transcendental love of Krishna. The Lord then embraced him very fondly and bestowed all his mercy upon him. Indeed, Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī, whose dear friend was Swarup Damodar, was the exact replica of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he was very, very dear to the Lord. Being the embodiment of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic love, Rūpa Gosvāmī was naturally very beautiful. He very carefully followed the principles enunciated by the Lord, and he was a competent person to explain properly the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expanded his mercy to Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī just so he could render service by writing transcendental mellows. The characteristics of Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī have thus been described in various places by the poet Kavirāja. An account has been given of how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed his causeless mercy upon Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī and Srila Sanatana Gosvāmī. Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī and Sanatana Gosvāmī were the objects of love and honor for all the great stalwart devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If someone returned to his country after seeing Vrindavan, the associates of the Lord would ask him questions. They would ask those returning from Vrindavan, how are Rūpa and Sanatana doing in Vrindavan? What are their activities in the renounced order? How do they manage to eat? These were the questions asked. The Lord's associates would also ask, how is it that Rūpa and Sanatana are engaged in devotional service 24 hours daily? At that time, the person who had returned from Vrindavan would praise Srila Rūpa and Sanatana Gosvāmī. The brothers actually have no fixed residence. They reside beneath trees, one night under one tree and the next night under another tree. Srila Rūpa and Sanatana Gosvāmī beg a little food from the houses of Brahmins. Giving up all kinds of material enjoyment, they only take some dry bread and fried chickpeas. They carry only water pots, and they wear torn quilts. They always chant the holy names of Krishna and discuss his pastimes. In great jubilation, they also dance. They engaged almost 24 hours daily in rendering service to the Lord. They usually sleep only an hour and a half, and some days, when they continually chant the Lord's holy name, they do not sleep at all. Sometimes they write transcendental literatures about devotional service, and sometimes they hear about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and spend their time thinking about the Lord. When the personal associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would hear of the activities of Rūpa and Sanatana Gosvāmī, they would say, "What is wonderful for a person who has been granted the Lord's mercy?" Purport. Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī and Sanatana Gosvāmī had no fixed residence. They stayed beneath a tree for one day only and wrote huge volumes of transcendental literature. They not only wrote books but chanted, danced, discussed Krishna, and remembered Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Thus they executed devotional service. In Vrindavan, there are Prakriti Sahajiyas who say that writing books or even touching books is taboo. For them, devotional service means being relieved from these activities. Whenever they are asked to hear a recitation of Vedic literature, they refuse, saying, "What business do we have reading or hearing transcendental literatures? They are meant for neophytes." They pose themselves to be too elevated to exert energy for reading, writing, and hearing. However, pure devotees under the guidance of Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī reject his Sahajya philosophy. It is certainly not good to write literature for money or reputation, but to write books and publish them for the enlightenment of the general populace is real service to the Lord. That was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's opinion, and he specifically told his disciples to write books. He actually preferred to publish books rather than establish temples. Temple construction is meant for the general populace and neophyte devotees, but the business of advanced and empowered devotees is to write books, publish them, and distribute them widely. According to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, distributing literature is like playing on a great mridanga. Consequently, we always request members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to publish as many books as possible and distribute them widely throughout the world. By thus following in the footsteps of Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī, one can become a Rupanuga devotee. Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī, back to the text. Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī has personally spoken about the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his auspicious introduction to his book, Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu. Although I am the lowest of men and have no knowledge, the inspiration to write transcendental literatures about devotional service has been mercifully bestowed upon me. Therefore, I am offering my obeisances at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has given me the chance to write these books. For 10 days, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at Prayag and instructed Rūpa Gosvāmī, empowering him with the necessary potency. Quite long purport. Purport. This is a confirmation of the statement Krishna Shakti. This is a confirmation of the statement Krishna Shakti Vina Nahe Tara Bhavatana. Unless one is specifically empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he cannot spread the Krishna consciousness movement. An empowered devotee sees him and feels himself to be the lowest of men, for he knows that whatever he does is due to the inspiration given by the Lord in his heart. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Tesham satatoyuktanam bhajatam pritipurvagam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. To be empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one has to qualify himself. This means that one must engage 24 hours daily in the loving devotional service of the Lord. The material position of a devotee doesn't matter because devotional service is not dependent on material considerations. In his earlier life, Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī was a government officer and a grihasta. He was not even a brahmachari or sannyasi. He associated with militaries and yavanas, but because he was always eager to serve, he was a qualified recipient for the Lord's mercy. A sincere devotee can therefore be empowered by the Lord regardless of his situation. In the preceding verse from Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī has described how he is personally empowered by the Lord. He further states in Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu, Iha yasya hara dasye, kamana manasa gira, nikilas apya vastavsu, jivan mukta sa yuchate. A person acting in the service of Krishna with his body, mind, and words is a liberated person, even in the material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities. To keep oneself free from material contamination and attain the Lord's favor, one must be sincerely anxious to render service to the Lord. This is the only qualification necessary. As soon as one is favored by the mercy of the spiritual master and the Lord, one is immediately given all the power necessary to write books and propagate the Krishna conscious movement without being hampered by material considerations. Just two more verses. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "My dear Rūpa, please listen to me. It is not possible to describe devotional service completely. Therefore, I am just trying to give you a synopsis of the symptoms of devotional service. The ocean of transcendental mellow of devotional service is so big that no one can describe its length and breadth. However, just to help you taste it, I am describing but one drop." So, shall we finish? So that is the end of chapter.
Is that the end?
No, that's not the end. No, that's the end of the reading of Caitanya-caritāmṛta.
Okay.
What's
Want to sing Kavirāja?
Yeah, okay. Hariyavaya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Namaha.
Hariyavaya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Namaha.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Gopala Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Gopala Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinatha Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Radha Shiva Sani
Srimad Bhakti Vakakshi Dade Gosvāmī Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Prabhupada Paramahāmsa Parivāja Ki Jai. Vai Asata Sata Srimad Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Prabhupada Shri Gauri Kishore Das Babiji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Prabhupada Shri Satchidananda Shri Bhakti Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Prabhupada Paramahāmsa Parivāja Ki Jai. Vai Asata Sata Shri Jai Om Prabhupada Shri Jagannath Das Babiji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Jai Shri Rūpa Guru Raga Ki Jai. Namachar Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Bhadde Vidyabhusana Ki Jai. Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Naratam Shamananda Srinivasa Acharya Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Kṛṣṇadāsa Kavirāja Ki Jai. Sabha Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Sabha Shri Mahāprabhu Ki Jai. Six Gosvāmīs of Vrindavan Ki Jai. Shri Radha-Krishna Gopi Gopinath Kun Radha-Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Lakshmi Varaha Devi Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Vigna Vinashaya Shri Nasingadev Ki Jai. Bhakti Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Tosi Maharani Ki Jai. Tosi Pirokame Ki Jai. Shri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Prabhu.